Oh, you're in trouble, Mike, if you're on his list.
Uh-oh. Not my list, is it?
He's probably on a lot of short lists.
You just added to the pile, huh?
More than likely, I'm on his list.
I think we all are.
But you have to do these and record every one of them now? So what happened?
Going
Are you
forward.
ready?
We go. make
So we
it
are
up.
live, but we have a minute. Oh, my clock says 7.
Okay, good. Good evening. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals on Wednesday night, February 9th. If you've never had the pleasure of spending an evening with us before, let me tell you how it's going to function. You are asking us to take an existing zoning rule and make a variance for you. We're going to ask you, after you've been sworn in, to testify at the podium to explain to us why not being granted this variance would be considered a hardship for you and why you want it. Because the variance will stay with the property. It is not something that if you move someplace else, you can take with you. The meeting is conducted by having, I will read the request for the variance. The city will show us pictures of it and explain the rule you're asking us to change for you. We'll call you to the podium to testify. The first thing you will do is give your name and address. And then the board will ask, you will testify, and then the board has the opportunity to ask you questions. When the board is finished with the questions and you're finished, and we will then go into private hearing, but everybody stays in the same room and you hear us discuss amongst ourselves. We'll come back out into a public hearing, we will vote, and you will know probably before 7:30 whether or not your request for variance has been granted. If it's not granted, you always have the option of going to the Court of Common Pleas. Okay, now I'm going to ask everybody who's going to be testifying if they would please stand and raise their right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth to help you God? Thank you. All right, now you're all sworn in. The first order of business tonight is approval of the minutes from the January 12th, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a
Second. I'll second.
Meeting, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Secretary, did you get that?
I did.
passed?
I
Okay.
did.
Okay.
Good thing we already signed that one.
That's what I was thinking. We only have one variance request tonight, and it's Wayne Barber, 608 West Worcester Street, has requested a variance to allow the construction of a 6-foot tall fence in the 25-foot front yard setback, corner lot. Fence would be in the front yard that faces Meeker Street, which would be 2 feet taller than the 4-foot maximum allowed. Heather?
Thank you. Okay, so under section 150.91, under fences of the zoning code, a fence erected on a lot line or within a setback may not exceed in height the following: under B, 4 feet when placed within a required front yard setback. And this situation is a corner lot. So as you well know, there's 2 front yards defined there. So the one front yard would be Meeker Street and then the other one West Worcester. Under section 150.16, the bulk and density regulations, it's zoned R2 single family. That is where we get the minimum front yard setback of 25 feet. So that is what it would be, where a fence could go up to the 4 foot tall. Here's an aerial view of the property. So you can see again the corner of Meeker and West Worcester. Using pictometry, we did some views. So you can see the front there. And then this would be the front from Meeker. And then this would be the side of the property. So that would be facing east. And then here's the rear of the property. And then here's pictures. Here's the front. And here would be the Meeker portion of the house. And then here is looking from Meeker towards the back and that front yard. So Worcester would be over here to the south. And here's a closer up view of that rear / front yard. And then here's a view right towards Meeker, towards that, again, front yard and then the back of the house. Here's a sketch that was part of your packet. So highlighted in yellow is where he wishes to place the 6 foot. Of course, it would be compliant here on the side. But then here where it juts out the front towards Meeker is where it would not meet that setback. So it'd be in that front yard. And he has it about 2.5 feet from that front property line, which is about a foot from the edge of the sidewalk. So hopefully that helps a little bit. We did actually receive one phone call today from a neighbor who got with the letter as required. They wanted to remain anonymous, but they did want to, they just basically had some questions about understanding what the request was, where the fence would go and how tall and why a variance was required. So after Jamie in our office described that, the person did say they were in favor of the request made by the applicant and could not attend, but they, again, they were okay with it, had no concerns, and they understood that the property does set out in the open. There's not much privacy. And so they totally understood why he would be requesting that. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the Administrative Code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed first-class mail to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedural requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Barber, you want to come to the podium and give us your name and address, please?
Wayne Barber, 608 West Wooster Street, Bowling Green.
Okay, now would you like to explain your need for this variance?
Absolutely. We have been in the residence for 25 years and have never had a need for a fence or ever even thought of a fence. 25 years ago, West Wooster Street was not very well traveled, not a lot of traffic. One of the reasons we bought the house was because we loved the front porch. And we would sit on the front porch and have coffee and discuss day's work or where we went and what we were doing, my wife and I. And as time went on and as construction continued with the golf course, with the country club, with the funeral homes, with the condos, everything west of us, West Wooster became a thoroughfare for all the traffic. You can't sit on your porch. I can't sit on my porch and have a conversation with my wife because we can't hear. The motorcycles, the loud trucks, cars, continuous flow of traffic going to and fro. The only traffic signs in that whole prospect is from Church Street all the way to Winter Garden. So when you leave Church Street, you have no restriction as to having to stop or start or whatever. People take advantage of it. Once they go past the bank, Huntington Bank, they take advantage of that. A few years back, I applied to have a freeway stop sign put at Haskins Road and West Wooster to slow down that traffic flow. So you would at least have something to slow down the traffic. So point being that if you can no longer use your front porch because it's no longer a joy to use it, you can no longer hear, you cannot concentrate. It's not fun anymore. So we decided we'll move to the back. We'll move around to the back. Okay. So you get to the backyard, you have the street, the sidewalk. There's no berm in between the sidewalk and the street in my yard. It's just street, sidewalk, yard. No berm in between whatever. The street, Meeker Street is a direct shot to City Park. A lot of people use that to go to City Park because of the skateboard rink they have, because of the swimming pools they have, the new building that's there, but all the activities that go on there. So, and if there's any construction down by Haskins Road, which they've been redoing pipes and whatever, Meeker Street is a good cut through there to Conneaut back to Haskins. So traffic is picked up with Conneaut School and construction and people doing cut throughs going Haskins Road. That also has picked up tremendously. Okay. The problem is that because there's no berm, you have the street, the curb, and the sidewalk. And people park their cars there that we don't even know They leave and go live in somebody's house for a week and come back and leave. Cars sitting there almost on the sidewalk because there's no berm in between. So you pull up to the curb and some people actually end up on the sidewalk. You know, you get too close or whatever. So you have people who you don't know who they are, where they're from, what they're doing, or who they're visiting, parking for 2 or 3 days, because that's the side of the street that we park on. The other side with the berm, they don't use that. That's the street we park on. Okay. So then you have the pedestrians to and fro, going from the city park to the skateboard thing, to whatever. Okay. You have people walking their dogs on a daily basis. The dogs forget where they're at. They sometimes want to venture into your yard. You know what I mean? So because there's no divide between the sidewalk and the street and that, they end up in our yard a lot. Okay. I came out one day and there was a man with a dog in the middle of my yard by the bird feeder. I said, "What are you doing? Who are you and what are you doing?" "I'm walking my dog." He says, "My dog these dogs have been trained for 100 years to hunt rabbits." He saw a rabbit, so he went after it. I said, "But not in my yard." Okay. So there's several situations that, number one is the traffic, the trucks, the cars, whatever. There's people from New York with no mufflers on their cars. I mean, it's just it's a mess. If the police could set my yard for 2 days and they're welcome to, they could have a wonderful time. Okay. And they're welcome to anytime. Okay. The problem is that because of the nature of my backyard, and all you know that, you've looked at it, you've seen it. Okay. If I attempt to have a barbecue in my backyard with all the passerbyers and pedestrians coming by, it's like I should invite them to a picnic. You know what I mean? I mean, there's so many people coming by and so much going on, you know, and then you get the person walking this dog and the person walking this dog, and the two dogs don't like each other, so they're getting a fight in the middle of your backyard, you know. Unacceptable. Okay. So if I can't use the front yard, and if I don't get the fence, I can't use the backyard, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I can't create a living space because there's no divide between the problem and that. A 4-foot fence would not solve the problem. It would solve the boundary problem, which a row of hedges would do the same thing. You know what I mean? But you would still have the same problem. People gay. I mean, there's no privacy. You know, I don't even let my wife go out in the mornings to feed the birds before daylight, because so many people, we don't know who they are or where they're from or what their purpose in life is. It's not like a neighborhood where you know everybody. We know everybody in the neighborhood, but we don't know the people who are, I don't want to say this bad, but there's so many rental properties down Wallace, you know, and they change renters like we change clothes, you know. I mean, every month is somebody different in the apartments, and you don't know who they are, where they're from, or what their intent is. And so because I don't think it's a very safe environment for us anymore, and I don't think there's any way we can maintain any privacy, not the fence. We didn't choose just a regular privacy fence. We chose the better privacy fence with the rails on the top and the more expensive, it would fit into the neighborhood because we love our neighborhood. That's why we bought the house. Okay? We love the neighborhood. We love the house. We loved all about it. And if you see my house, you know, it's almost pristine. You know, I mean, I don't want to brag, but it's a nice house.
It
Okay.
is.
We maintain it very, very well. And people say, well, my mother-in-law passed away about 10 days ago. And we hadn't had a vacation for 9 years. 9 years, no vacation, nowhere. ProMedica was the longest vacation we took. People say, why don't you take a vacation? There's 3 ways to take a vacation: plane, trains, and automobiles, and ships, right? None of those are safe anymore. Planes are problems every day. The ships have COVID all the time. Cars, all kind of people are getting shot because we thought you were so-and-so and so-and-so, or you ran me off the road, you know. And I'm 77 years old. I'm not comfortable going into an airport and changing planes with the virus as it is. My wife's 74, okay? They say older people should they should stay closer to home. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If I don't have anywhere to stay closer to home, where am I going to stay? Inside and watch basketball? What am I going to do? My wife's a master gardener, but she hasn't practiced for 9 years because we've been taking care of her mom. Okay. She has visions of the outside of the fence, not being just a fence. Okay. But somehow I'll provide some kind of plants, some kind of berry plants or some hollies or something along the outside of the fence to give it some character. I mean, so you just don't look at a fence.
Right.
I'm retired military, 20 years Air Force, and we were very structured. We learned very structured stuff. Okay, and you don't just look at a fence and that's it. It has to say something. It has to do something. It can't just be a fence. You know what I mean? And on the inside, it would give her a boundary where she could design a garden inside with butterfly plants and hummingbird feeders, whatever else, you know, because we like the native plants and we like that kind of environment. But we can't create that the way it is now. There's no way.
Okay,
So without the fence, I got nowhere to go.
Okay.
I mean, I have any suggestions, I'd be glad to have them.
does anybody on the board have any questions? Wyatt? Do you have any questions?
No, we're good.
Is there anyone here who wishes to address this request? Sir? Mr. Berber, you want to sit down for just a second so
Sure.
Mr. Harrow can use the podium?
William Harold, 1030 Conneaut Avenue. I just want to say a couple of things. One, we raised our family in a house that was on a corner lot, and it is, I can tell you from experience, you have 2 front yards. And where we're living now, of course, we have a backyard, and it's relatively private, you know, not completely private, but that's okay. The point in this situation is, I think it's got 2 things. One is it is 2 front yards. And then the other is that it's so close to the sidewalk and so forth that I would, without telling you how to vote, because I've been to enough of these meetings, I don't ever want to be in your seat to make these types of decisions, but just to lend some support to the argument that it is a situation where you got a double whammy of it being really close to the road and the backyard really is functioning as a front yard. So having a 6-foot fence that's tastefully done, I think would allow them to have a bona fide, if you will, backyard. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wish to make any comments?
I did have one comment or question. So the fence is partially to screen for noise also? Do you feel that that's actually going to work for you? Right.
Sure.
We're gonna have to have CS
You
get to the
need to
podium.
go
I
back up to the
apologize.
microphone.
Anytime you have a fence or any kind of object, a house, a fence, trees or whatever,
Mhm.
it would muffle somewhat the noise from the street. It wouldn't eliminate it, but it would somewhat muffle,
All right.
you know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else has any questions or comments, and there isn't anyone in the audience who wishes to make a comment? I'm going to close the public hearing and gentlemen,
Your house is immaculate, by the way. I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful home.
Some of the concerns I have, we've been here before. 6-foot fence bothers me a little bit, especially with where his driveway is situated. If it's 6 feet, he's gonna have a hard time getting out of that driveway. I question, putting up 6-foot fences along areas that are highly traveled just for the aesthetics of it. If we allow it to happen there up and down a highly traveled street, what does that look like in the future? I did have a question for Heather. I don't know if you can respond to this or not. Why was the 4-foot ordinance created? What was the sort of the nature? Why 4 feet? Do you know, like why?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would say that's pretty standard across the board for most model zoning ordinances.
Yeah. So really, I mean, we're back at that. We're arguing over 2 feet again. I remember that being right.
mhm,
Mhm.
back up
It-
there. We're, just a second.
g-
Are you,
We're in closed session.
We're in
If we,
closed
once we,
session
once we
right now.
close, you're
Okay,
welcome to,
yeah,
no, no, you're
yeah.
good. You're good. So I guess I'd be more inclined to, he can do a 4-foot fence without even coming to this meeting. I would personally be more inclined to have the 4-foot fence and then have him do arborvitae or something to try to accommodate for noise and things versus putting up a 6-foot barrier, my 2 cents. I'm worried about, and have that set back a little bit further because I'm worried about him coming in and out of the driveway and people being able to see.
Well, if you put the arborvitae's up, it would be the same problem.
I would move them in.
Deeper in?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a back? Oh, I can't answer that question until he comes back up. Let me try to look at the aerial.
okay, you want to go back into public? Done with the discussion?
Go
All right, we're back into public hearing. Did you have a question for?
Do you have a back patio or back porch back there where you spend most of your time or?
Sir,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm
That's
sorry.
my, that's
We're
my
on-
fault.
We're
I-
on Zoom and they can't hear
Yep.
you unless you're
That was
talking
my
into a
fault. That was my
microphone.
fault.
As you saw in the pictures, we do have a back porch.
The covered back porch. Do you
Yeah.
have an additional patio or
No, we
anything you can
don't.
walk out
No, we
onto?
don't. To offer an idea for you
Please, yeah.
is the fence will go behind the tree line. What the tree line is, you were talking about backing out of the driveway and whatever being a problem. The fence will go behind the tree line, so it won't be,
Can you pop that up?
The
somehow so
fence,
we can look
the
at it?
fence was listed as being 2.5 feet off the sidewalk. Does that sound accurate to you? The drawing that
What
you,
it shows.
Yep.
off the sidewalk? No,
no.
No.
So the drawing is inaccurate.
that's not accurate.
Okay.
Is it going to be on the sidewalk
Excuse me?
or further towards away from the sidewalk?
The reason I say that is because without hesitation, because I had the property surveyed a couple of years ago. And I know where the stakes are for the thing. I purposely went. It's probably about 4 from the sidewalk, probably about 5 feet. Actually from the sidewalk, because if you look at the sidewalk,
Is there any way you can point that picture, kind of where you're talking about, if you look up here? Because that's the side you're concerned about, right?
Yes.
So that big tree there, and and the fence is going to go which side of that tree? It's
Okay.
behind that big tree.
Okay.
That's
So
set back.
that's set
quite a
back,
ways.
set back further than 2.5 feet. I'm just going by what your drawing looks like.
Sir,
My
you need to,
apologies.
sir, you need
Okay.
to come back up to the mic to talk, please.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
what I did when I staked out the fence was the utilities had been marked. They came out and marked the utilities so we'd know where all the utilities were. Okay. The utilities are marked at least 2 feet from the sidewalk. The utilities are. Okay. I went beyond that another 2 to 3 feet to put my stake up because I wanted to have enough room between the fence and where the utilities are to plant flowers or whatever if I wanted to, without any interference with the utilities or the sidewalk. So, no, that's not correct.
Okay.
So
I didn't do the drawings, but the gentleman that I hired to do the fence did the drawings.
So can we ask that it be different distance here and say, hey, it's got to be this far from that sidewalk?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
I just want to make sure respectfully, Mr. Barber,
Yeah.
When you're backing out of your driveway, I want to make sure you're able to see cars coming, and I'm a little concerned about pedestrians coming down that sidewalk if you can't see them.
But if you look, yeah, may I come again?
Yes.
Sir, sir, would you want to back to the mic so the
just-
people on Zoom can hear you?
I get this is challenging because you're trying to point on the screen. It's a little far away from the podium.
I had, we have a one-car garage with a one-car driveway. And I have two cars. Okay. I don't want to park on the street because it's not safe to park a car on the street. Okay. So, and I can't park on the grass because that's not
Right on.
to do that.
That's right.
So K and K came out about 3 or 4 years ago and poured me another pad the width of the driveway. Okay. And so he wouldn't have to change the curb, go into a lot of things about changing the curb when he backed out. He angled that pad into the other driveway. So when they come together, they come out at a 45-degree angle. Okay. It's at least, and that's where I put my marker for the fence. It's at least 8 feet from the sidewalk. Where the two come together the same length.
8 foot in? Into the property line?
Excuse me?
8 foot into the property line, away from that sidewalk?
No, what he did was he came over to my other driveway. The driveway is here. He poured one here. He came over this way 45 degrees and tied into my existing driveway. So he wouldn't have to go back to the city and get the curbs and all that stuff changed.
Mhm.
He eliminated that problem. So from where from where the curve starts,
Mhm.
the original driveway is where
It's just
Wait.
joins it, I
that's
understand
where
now.
I based my fence coming off of that. And it's got to be at least 6 or 8 feet on the sidewalk.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Heather, do you have a overhead of his property?
And the aerial view,
Yes. So we can kind of judge.
Closer look.
Okay, I can see what he's talking about with the additional the additional driveway that he poured and it
Can you
meeting.
zoom in, Ned?
well, I think I'd have to go online. This is the PowerPoint.
Yeah,
So I
Okay,
don't-
that's fine.
you can see where that 45 comes into the apron off the street. And I appreciate that
Is your cursor-
explanation. I guess I'm more concerned about the distance between the sidewalk on Meeker and where the fence will be, so that as you're backing out of the driveway,
If you look at the first big tree you showed,
yep,
it's almost sitting on the sidewalk.
right.
It's more of an impedance than anything else backing
I-
out of the.
I don't disagree. But that is at least set back far enough. If a child is riding a bicycle down the sidewalk, you'd still be able to see
Oh,
them.
absolutely, because the fence goes behind the tree line.
Okay, but what I'm saying is if you're in your vehicle
Absolutely.
in the driver's seat, right, and the fence is just on the other side of that tree, what's the
not-
distance between the sidewalk and the fence?
It's not just on the other side of the tree.
And I'm so sorry. I'm not doing a good job asking the question probably. What is the distance between the fence that you're proposing? What is the distance between the sidewalk and the fence you'd like to erect?
I'm just guessing 6 to 8 feet.
So are we comfortable,
I'm guessing.
for the sake of the discussion here, are we comfortable saying that it needs to be 6 feet from the sidewalk?
If we
Minimum
say
6 feet?
Minimum 6 foot, but if it's behind that tree, I mean,
Wait a
It's kinda
second, the
hard to
secretary
know.
has to get that down if you're going to make that part of the variance.
I'm asking if that's something that am
I
I the
would
only one
be.
that feels uncomfortable
Well,
with this or
no,
or
we had that same problem with the other one. we
Right.
went
Yeah.
through,
Ma-
Because it was dangerous. They back out.
Sir, what you provided us is a plot that is approximately, and I'm just doing the numbers together closely, but you've encompassed a plot of your land with the fence that's approximately 47 feet deep and 237 feet wide. So what I think we're asking you to consider or discuss is, instead of making it 47 feet deep, it would be reduced to something different than that, 40 feet or 41 feet or whatever. It would push that front line of that fence back from the sidewalk,
Well-
enough depth that you could be in your car in your driveway and see traffic coming.
It was already approved. The people making the fence, Advanced Fence Company. He came out and we walked off where I had staked out. And when he submitted his original request for a permit was granted for what you were asking. It was back about 8 or 10 feet from what I'm asking. And I wouldn't accept that because it'd be off the corner of the porch. That'd be like I'm in a room. Have no room. Would have no room. The 47 feet you see, most of it's on the backside, not the front side. If I took 8 or 10 feet off of my proposed now, it'd be like sitting up against this thing. You'd have no room. I mean, it would be purposeless.
I think what was being discussed was not 8 or 10 feet for you to consider, but more like 6 feet.
I would do that off the sidewalk. I
That's what
wouldn't
we're
have a
talking about, is
that's
off the
what we're talking
sidewalk.
I wouldn't have a
Yeah.
problem with that.
That's,
It's that far now. I know it is.
But-
I'm sure it's at least 10 feet from the sidewalk where my stake is now.
I appreciate your confidence and I believe you. I'm just saying the drawing says 2.5 feet. So for us to,
Mhm.
for us to pass this,
I understand.
what I'd like to do is revise revise your drawing tonight to reflect our want to move the fence back
Could
to
someone-
6
could someone
feet.
come back out one day and measure that? I have my stake in the ground from the beginning. Could someone come out and measure from the sidewalk to that stake and see? Wouldn't that be a simple solution?
The simple solution, I think what we have to do is state it's amended to state 6 foot from, minimum 6 foot from
I have no
the edge of
problem.
the sidewalk.
I have no
And I
problem.
think
with
that would solve our
Yeah,
problem.
and as
Yeah.
long as that stake is
And
beyond
as
6
long as
feet,
You're agreeing to
then you're good.
that.
I have no problem
We
with
can
that.
make the variance of,
are we
as I
is
said,
6 feet seem like it's a
And we're talking
reasonable?
about the inside of the sidewalk, right?
yes,
yes.
Can
To your
can
property
approach-
line and sidewalk,
Yeah.
Can I
6 foot
approach,
in.
may I approach you at the podium to show you on the drawing what I'm talking about?
Absolutely, you betcha.
I have the same problem.
Matt, be sure you're talking into the mic so
I have
Joan
the
can
same
get
problem.
you.
I put my spectacles on. I'm talking about this distance right here.
Right.
You have listed as 2.5 feet. We'd like to amend to have it be from the sidewalk at a minimum of 6 feet.
This is not correct.
Right, you've already established that and I believe you.
Okay.
So I'm saying is we'll amend this to say your fence has to be a minimum of 6 feet in and then you can build anything inside of 6 feet.
I have no problem.
Okay.
Absolutely. no problem.
Mhm.
Because
Thank you.
I know it's at least 6 foot now. Know it.
Colby?
here's my concern with what we're doing. I'm gonna take this off so I can be heard
Yeah.
better. My concern about what we're doing is the gentleman is insisting that where he wants it now is greater than 6 feet. And we're moving it closer to the street than what he originally had proposed, possibly. So I would be more comfortable if we could hold this thing in abeyance and allow us to find out exactly what it is that you want to propose to us, because you're saying this drawing is incorrect,
I didn't do the drawing.
and we would like, I would be more comfortable making any decision based on what you are asking us to do.
Okay.
And then if we feel the need to amend it, we do that. But I wouldn't want to amend it, something that we don't have factual information about. That's just my concern.
I guess my only concern would be, at this point, in terms of us trying to set this guideline for them, is, again, we'll be guessing, things will be changing. At this point in time, again, I'm comfortable saying 6 feet from the edge of that sidewalk, because that will give you, I feel, if you're careful, it'll give you clearance enough to be careful to be able to back out.
I have
And
no
we'll be able
problem.
to set it and, you know, I feel like particularly your fence installer is going to want to go. I guess that's part of my
I'm
concern.
sorry.
I get what, I'm not trying to interrupt.
No,
you, I
no, that's all
apologize.
right. Go
I
ahead.
think, and Hobie, I think I get what you're saying too. I like accuracy as well. I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had an accurate drawing, but I guess what we're proposing is if he wants to, the fence installer gets our approval to go 6 feet and he wants to move it to 6 feet right off the sidewalk and raise a 6-foot fence, that we're okay with that. If he wants to go 8 feet, 9 feet, 11 feet, that he can do that too. There's no problem with that, we're setting a
minimum
minimum
distance.
barrier that he can do. He can go inside of that if he would approve.
And I think minimum needs to be in the wording of it, a minimum. of
Yeah,
6
correct.
feet.
minimum of 6 feet. That, am I making sense?
Then he doesn't have to
Understand.
come back.
Right, right.
We've
If it
set
says a minimum of
parameters
6
for
feet, he can take it back 12 feet if he wants to.
yeah.
Okay,
I can appreciate what you're saying. I'm a 30-year veteran of the Department of Defense. I was a quality assurance representative. The quality is not my understand. Drawings and specifications, I understand. So I know where you're coming from. I know what you're saying, and I'm okay with it.
okay.
Okay.
I
Okay.
feel very confident that I'm further than at least 6 feet, maybe even greater.
Well, you may want to get a tape measure out before your
Yeah.
guys start putting that fence up
I
and
would
make
You
sure.
got
sure.
to make
I
sure
would-
your fence man knows what the difference in the variance request
I
is
would,
now.
I would bet everybody a steak dinner at Diagee's.
Make it in a best restaurant in Bowling Green and we'll probably take you up on it.
We have a Best Western in Bowling Green.
I know I said make it a restaurant in Bowling Green. Yeah.
We
do
also have a Best Western in
We
the
also
Falcon
have a Best
Plaza. It's
Western in
phenomenal.
Bowling
Yeah,
Green.
we do.
Okay, gentlemen, would you like to amend the request for variance so that
Well,
the secretary can get it?
I wanted to verify that rather than an amendment, that there is language in here which can be so-and-so moved, so-and-so seconded, that the variance be granted as requested, subject to the following
That's what
conditions.
you need to say.
That the fence is placed no closer than 6 feet from the edge of the sidewalk. Does that make
Sidewalk
sense?
on or off.
Bob, can you take your
Hang on,
mask
sure.
off or talk louder for Joan?
He's making one small change. Hang on.
So can I throw something in there?
Sure.
In our office, we measure from property lines, not the sidewalk, because generally speaking,
Oh,
the city right of way ends about a foot inside the sidewalk. And so I think it'd make it a lot cleaner if you said whatever that number is from the front property line, not from the sidewalk.
But are
Because
we-
someday that
but
sidewalk
then
could
we're-
be-
Then we're back into Hobie's question. We don't know what that is today.
Well, you're still setting a minimum.
Correct.
It's just cleaner for the city that we're enforcing the property line, not the right of way, because that sidewalk could be a foot wider a year from now. The
Well-
road could be 5 feet
And
wide.
that's-
Well-
that's
And
true.
so it's the edge of the right of way.
but I'll
That's really the property line.
I would tell you that if that sidewalk got wider, I'd want the fence to move along with it. Because I want to make sure I'm not gonna back out into anybody, right? So if the sidewalk ends up a foot wider, which I like, right? I'd want any future fence to be 6 feet off the edge of that new sidewalk.
Yeah, and I don't mean to split hairs. All I'm saying is that the city measures from property lines and not a
Okay.
random thing that could move.
Okay,
The
so-
right of way is not moving, right? I mean, the right of way is further than the inside of the sidewalk.
Just to back you up, Heather, as a former builder, I can tell you that people think that sidewalks mark where the tree line begins and it's
Correct.
public property, and that's not true. That also marks, they think, that when the sidewalk got poured and where it ended is where their property ends, and that's not always true either. So that's why I was asking for some specific
Okay.
things that we could vote on rather than hopeful thoughts, because we don't know. this gentleman doesn't even know, and I know he's trying to be cooperative, and I want to help him, but without information that's factual, it's difficult to do.
I'd also add that several people think they own to the road.
If I
And so
may-
that's why I'm just making
Yes.
sure cleanly if we say that setback from that front property line
If I may,
along Meeker. I'm not arguing with your numbers. I just want to make sure we're using the same language and being consistent.
So then is there a way that we can verbalize it that will get us what we're, the spirit of what we're trying to get done and also make Hobie happy?
Matt, he wants to say something.
go
Mr.
ahead.
Bremer.
I'm from the wonderful state of South Carolina. Okay. I used to work part-time real estate with Century 21. In the wonderful state of South Carolina, when you sold a property, you went to closing, you had to take a brand new, up-to-date, ink still wet survey with you. You knew any encroachments that was on the property or whatever. I bought 3 houses in Ohio. I've had problems with all 3 of them, including the one I'm in now. As you said, property line goes back to that row of hedges back there. I'm out here digging those hedges up one day. My neighbor says, "What are you doing?" "Those are my hedges." So I had it surveyed. And he was right. Okay. So I can tell you exactly where the property line is. And I can tell you that I will bet you it's at least 3 feet from the side of the sidewalk.
Thank you.
I have a survey that shows that. And anybody's welcome to come measure whatever, but that's the problem with Ohio. Friend of mine, my neighbor was looking for a house the other day. He wanted me to go with him. I asked the real estate agent, "Where's the property line?" "Well, I think it runs," I said, You think it runs over there? Where does it really run? And she told me that the buyer has to have a survey done if he wants to know where the property line is. The buyer has to. So I know where you're coming from because I've been there. I've had 3 houses, with 3 properties, problems on each one. And that's why I had mine surveyed. And I knew exactly where the stakes are. I know exactly where the boundaries.
Well,
Go ahead.
I sense that we want to help you with your problem. And if you're saying that your property line, because you had a survey, is 3 feet from the edge of the sidewalk.
I'm very sure, pretty much
Okay.
sure of that.
If in fact we said that the fence line had to be 6 foot from your property line, that is 3 feet from the sidewalk, or in other words, a total of 9 feet back, is that acceptable to you?
You said 6 feet from the sidewalk.
No, I said 6 feet from the property line, which is 3 feet, you say, from the sidewalk.
Approximately, yes.
So if it's 3 feet from the sidewalk and we ask you to set your fence back 6 more feet, would you be willing to do that?
I think so. I'm thinking, I'm running the numbers
So that would make a total of 9 feet
from the sidewalk.
from the sidewalk.
From the sidewalk. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Are we there?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Can-
I'm okay with that.
he's making a bit of a, sorry. I think what's happening is he's making a bit of a concession to make sure respectfully, right, that you're happy. And I appreciate what you're trying to get done here. So we're going to make sure that we're inside
We
the
need to
property
get the
line.
proper wordage
Yeah.
for Bob, for the
Well, I
motion.
think the language would be the same based upon what Hobie was saying, but that doesn't accommodate what Heather would like us, how Heather would like us to write it.
Well, in my
correct?
mind, instead of saying from sidewalk,
The
you would
property
say
line.
from the edge of
property.
the city right of way, if that makes it cleaner. Which,
But we don't,
essentially
is
we
property
don't,
line.
we don't, know- we can all, at this point in time, the recommendation is essentially 9 feet from the sidewalk, correct?
6 feet from the.
6 feet from the property
6
line.
feet from
So
the.
6 feet from the
line,
property
right.
line.
It's the
Okay.
same if it's in fact 3 foot from the sidewalk.
And the
We are-
property
we are
line
kinda
is my
making-
survey, right?
We're making somewhat of
I'm
an
making an
assumption, though, that the
assumption, yeah.
property line is 3 feet. I mean, not that I don't trust you, but the property line is about 3 feet from the sidewalk.
The general standard is that a property line ends 1 foot inside the sidewalk, or I'm sorry, the right of way ends. That's general standard how we stake projects. So again, that's just what our office normally reviews.
So
Sir,
it's,
do you want, you're gonna have to be sworn in
Yeah.
if you want to make a comment. We, we need your name and your address to make a comment, please. Okay,
what we're saying is then if the property line, if you're telling me you're sure that the property line is at least 1 foot from the edge of the sidewalk, would that be an accurate statement?
That would be in general. I mean, he is responsible as a property owner is giving us an accurate sketch. We review it, we add the numbers, the property's 50 by, 130 or whatever that number is. We add the numbers together. We don't survey.
Okay.
We don't do that. That's their responsibility. So all we can ask is that if you do a condition that it's based on either saying property line or the edge of the city right of way. We prefer property line, but whatever your comfort level is, as long as we have something enforceable, because we're going to go back and check that.
The 2.5 feet is shown on the drawing. Where's that from?
From
It
the,
looks from the
you got it from the
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
front-
to
no, from
your
the front property line.
Allegedly, that would be my guess. It's probably from, sorry, it's probably from, and I say probably because I didn't survey this, but the way it's drawn on here, it is from what looks like the edge of your property, the property line or the city right of way to where you want to put your fence,
Mhm.
2.5 feet.
So he's showing 2.5 feet from my property line,
That's what this
Oh.
says. This is,
my survey property line.
yes, that's what this looks like it says.
Is that a problem?
What we're asking was, the consensus was perhaps that if you would be willing to move that 2.5 feet to 6 feet instead of 2.5 feet back,
I'm a
6 feet
little-
back.
I'm a little confused, okay?
May I approach him?
sure. Go ahead.
I think we're,
This is the sidewalk here,
okay,
and this distance between the edge of the sidewalk and this line that's drawn
okay,
is the grass, as it says here.
which would probably be my survey line,
This is your survey line, we assume.
okay?
So from this line to where you would like your fence, you have it marked at 2.5 feet.
Okay,
What would be suggested is that the line would be moved back 6 feet total from that grass, from the property line to where your fence would be.
I think we have a disconnect here. Maybe because the drawing is not correct. If I may. I don't know if this, couldn't someone, I have my stake in the ground. Couldn't someone come out and measure that?
I'd like to make a statement if I could. Does it make more sense? Does it make more sense to table the discussion until we can clearly identify where the property line is?
I'm
Absolutely.
going to suggest that we do table this so
Okay.
that, because there's so much confusion
Yeah.
and so many different things going
We're
on.
getting caught up in our.
I think we need to table this. You can get more accurate plans. And then we can come back next month. You do not have to pay the $100 again. That'll cover for
So-
2 months
What I'm hearing you say is that I need to present to you a new drawing?
with accurate drawings that show.
Or is it possible for someone to come out and just measure that? Where my stake is?
I think you need to have accurate drawings. sir.
Yeah, you need to provide the city with what you want to do. We're not going to tell you what,
This may
you
be an
need to do.
accurate drawing, it may just be misinterpreted.
No, if you're misinterpreting it, then we are too. So
I'm not misinterpreting, I'm saying that maybe we got confused somewhere down.
yeah, I think we did.
Okay.
So that's probably the best way that we can table it for now. get different drawings that you're comfortable with and that the board can be comfortable with. And then we can meet again next month and honor your request.
What we can't really tell is how far back that fence is gonna be, the point where you're gonna back out, like driveway, sidewalk. We can't tell that because that just says grass area. You don't know what that,
The grassy area is
you
where.
can measure, can
Uh,
measure.
Oh, I see.
So we're saying 2.5 foot and we were looking at it, well, that's like 2.5 foot from the edge of the sidewalk. Then you go, okay, got a property line. Okay, wait a minute, what's that distance? You're saying it's maybe foot. So there's no clear delineation there. So
See,
we can understand.
when you have the sidewalk, the utilities run between the sidewalk and my property, okay? The gas lines and whatever. It's gotta be more than two or two.
But that's what we don't know.
We need to see the drawing, the
Right.
accurate drawings, so.
Correct.
um, May I please have a motion to table this?
I also move.
And I will second.
Okay, all those in
Okay,
favor,
if-
favor
I-
signify.
May I please?
Sure, go ahead. We're in the middle of a vote. I've got a motion out here. I really
And a
need to
second.
In a
finish.
second, okay.
Its motion has been made and seconded, so I have to take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay. You may make a comment now if you'd like to.
I think I lost what I was gonna say.
Okay. We are going to table this until we get, all of us are less confused
I know
and we
what I was
get
gonna say.
accurate drawings.
Now, basically, are we looking at 6 feet from the sidewalk or 6 feet from the property line?
6 feet from the property line.
6 feet from the property. line.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, thank you. We have lobby visitation. Is there anyone in here who would like to visit with us? The mayor left, so,
I would like to remind you of next Wednesday, February 16th at the Veterans Building at 6:30. We are having our second presentation from Zone Co. Regarding articles or proposed draft Articles 1, 2, 3, and 7 of the new zoning code. So hopefully you all can attend. I think it's moving along. It's just a lot of information to absorb. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Time again?
6:30. In addition to that, we have a web page dedicated to the update. We also have an interactive map that you can click on a parcel and it shows the current zoning and the proposed zoning. So I think that will be very helpful. But if you think of any questions, let me know. We also have comment forms, so you can submit a comment right through the webpage and it gets right to us. And again, we're trying to have different avenues for comments. Also, the planning department, we have an annual report we'll be putting out soon and we'll email that to you since it of course involves a report about the zoning appeals, what you did in 2021.
May I say one more thing?
sure.
If I bring another drawing that shows 6 feet from the property line back, is that gonna be acceptable? I mean, are we going,
We'll have another hearing, but there certainly shouldn't be. I can't speak for how people are going to vote, but that would certainly be a lot less confusing.
I'm gonna, may I?
sure,
I'd like to better understand where the property line is in relation to the existing sidewalk. Because what I'm trying to determine is I want to make sure there's enough room when you're backing out that you can see people coming. So there's going to be, I need to know where the property line or that back pin is
Okay.
back by your garage,
Okay.
right?
Right.
I need to know how that orients with the sidewalk and then the distance between the property line and where you want that fence.
I understand,
That makes sense?
I understand.
Right on.
Okay. Anything further? I will remind you that the city is also asking for ideas on how to spend $3.8 million. So
Volunteer.
I think we can give them a lot of ideas. Okay? Anything else? May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
All right. All those in favor signify